Chapter 1. The carriage comes, the carriage black. Janner Iggaby lay trembling in his bed with his eyes shut tight, listening to the dreadful sound of the black carriage rattling along in the moonlight. His younger brother Tink was snoring in the bunk above him, and he could tell from his little sister Lily's breathing that she was asleep too. Janner dared to open his eyes, and he saw the moon, as white as a skull, grinning down on him through the window. As hard as he tried not to think about it, the nursery rhyme that had terrified children in the land of Scree for years sang in his head. And he lay there in a pale moonlight, his lips barely moving. Lo, beyond the river Blap, the carriage comes, the carriage black, by shadowed steed with shadowed tack, and shadowed driver driving. Child, pray the Maker let you sleep when comes the carriage down your street, lest all your dreams be dreams of teeth and carriages arriving, to wrest you from your berth and bower in deepest night and deepest hour, across the sea to frozen tower, where Nag the Nameless pounds you. At Castle Throg across the span, a world away from kith and clan, you'll weep at how your woes began the night the shadows bound you. Away beyond the river Blap, the carriage came, the carriage black, by shadowed steed with shadowed tack, the night the carriage found you. It's no wonder that Janner had a hard time sleeping once he heard the faint thud of hooves and the jangle of chains. He could see in his mind the forms of the crows circling the carriage and perched atop it. Hear the croaking bleaks and the flapping of black wings. He told himself that the sounds were only his imagination, but he knew that somewhere in the countryside that very night, the black carriage would stop at some poor soul's house, and the children there would be taken away, never to be seen again. Only last week he had overheard his mother crying about the taking of a girl from Torboro. Sarah Cobbler was the same age as Janner, and he remembered meeting her once when her family had passed through Glipwood. But now she was gone forever. One night she lay in bed just as he was now. She had probably kissed her parents good night and said a prayer, and the black carriage had come for her. Had she been awake? Did she hear the snort of the black horses outside her window, or see the steam rising from their nostrils? Did the fangs of Dang tie her up? Had she struggled when they put her into the carriage, as if she were being fed into the mouth of a monster? Whatever she had done, it was useless. She had been ripped away from her family, and that was the end of it. Sarah's parents had held a funeral wake for her. Being carried off by the black carriage was like dying. It could happen to anyone at any time, and there was nothing to be done about it but to hope the carriage kept moving when it rattled down your lane. The rattles and the clinks and the hoofbeats echoed through the night. Was the black carriage getting closer? Would it make the turn up the lane to Iggaby Cottage? Janner prayed to the Maker that it would not. Nugget, Lily's dog, perked his head up at the foot of her bed and growled at the night beyond the window. Janner saw a crow alight on a bony branch outlined by the moon. Janner trembled, gripping his quilt and pulling it up to his chin. The crow turned its head and seemed to peer into Janner's window, sneering at the boy whose wide eyes reflected back the moonlight. Janner lay in terror, wishing he could sink deeper into his bed where the crow's black eyes couldn't see him. But the bird flapped away, the moon clouded over, and the thump of hoofbeats and the creak rattle of the carriage faded into silence. Janner realized that he'd been holding his breath, and he let it out slowly. He heard Nugget's tail thump against the wall, and he felt much less alone, knowing that the little dog was awake with him. Soon he was fast asleep, dreaming troubled dreams.